My name is Michael Kerman with Leading Edge Seminars, and I'm happy to welcome you here to this meet and greet with Terry Real. Many people have registered for this. Some are here and some will watch this video later. But I'm really happy for the people who are here because this gives you the opportunity to ask Terry or me questions about Terry's program or anything you might be curious about our Cancun program. So that's the format. We'll talk for a while about what Terry's doing. I'll talk a little bit about the general program. Then we open for questions. And of course, you're welcome to ask questions by going to the chat line and say you have a question, by using the raise hand function on the Zoom, bottom of your Zoom screen, or Emily Porter is officially our hostess with the mostest, and she'll be here for you and will be helping to moderate our Q&A period. Finally, live transcription is possible, and if you like to just read the words while you hear them, go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, which is live transcription, subtitles, and you can read those words along. So Terry, thank you very much, number one, for joining us. Well, no, for joining us in Cancun on a cold February day everywhere else, and for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity to do both, Michael. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
You know, I think a lot of people here know you and your work very, very well. But for people who might not know you very well, I want to just say a couple of things, which will kind of lead into your workshop. So first, if you followed Terry Real's career for a long time, you know that in 1997, he had a huge bestseller about men's depression called I Don't Want to Talk About It. And I know about it because I kept looking at the New York Times bestseller list, and it was on there every week for what it seemed like forever. And I thought Terry Real's going to have a career in helping men and helping therapists who work with men understand what they're going through and do a better job and have a better life. But then he switched gears, of course, incorporating those ideas into working with couples and developed relational life therapy and wrote a book called The New Rules of Marriage and more books since then. So, Terry, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that transition first before we talk about your program in Cancun.
Well, okay, so the name of my the method is called Relational Life Therapy. The name of the institute is called Relational Life Institute. Guess what? We're into relational living. And so I believe that when I was working with men, the bottom line is I believe that what ailed them is disconnection. If you read Carol Gilligan and the feminist writers of the 80s, the psychological literature on women, the wound, it's been corrected some by feminism, not nearly as much as we would like, but the wound to girls and women is disempowerment, and the healing move is re-empowering them. The wound to boys and men is not disempowerment so much, it's disconnection. What we do to quote unquote turn boys into men is disconnect them from their vulnerabilities, from their emotions, from others. And so I believe that the healing move with men was reconnection, was helping men move into what I call the jet stream of relational connection, which is what we're born for. It's what the human being is designed for, to be intimately connected to other human beings. And so as I began to work with men on helping them be more relational, it just seemed very natural. I am a family therapist and couples therapist. It seemed very natural to work with them in the relationships they were actually in. And so I began to bring in partners, women, other men, and non-binary folks, and work on teaching men to be more relational by using the relationship they were in. And that led me into couples work, and I've been there ever since.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what you'll be doing in Cancun besides enjoying the beach and the sunshine. Your session is called High Impact Couples Therapy, How to Produce Change Quickly in Troubled Clients. Kind of give us an overview. And I would imagine a lot of therapists would say, I work with couples and a quick change is not even possible. These are the toughest clients we can work with. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts about producing change quickly and how you think this program, which is going on for 5 days from 9 to 12:30 each morning, about 16 and a half hours of time and continuing credit. Tell us about it, please.
Well, relational life therapy has three phases. The first, or three sort of strands. The first phase I call waking up the client, joining through the truth. This is where the therapist skillfully and lovingly helps the client see what they're doing that is blowing their own foot off. You know, somebody called it carefrontation. I don't like the word confrontation. It's way too aggressive, but it's a way of telling the truth to somebody about what's difficult in what they're doing. You know, when I first learned therapy, the idea was you form an alliance with the person for months, maybe years, and then you confront the difficult truth. In RLT, we form the alliance by telling the difficult truth right out of the starting gate. So what do I mean by, I would say to you, Michael, when you chase after your wife and you yell and scream and complain about how she doesn't love you, the technical term we have for that is you are an angry pursuer. And I have some bad news for you, my friend. Angry pursuit is not seductive. You want to hear that again? Angry pursuit will never get you closer to the person you're trying to be closer to. It's a dysfunctional move. So that's the first phase. We point out what you're doing over and over again that's getting in your way. The minute we have that, the next question is, where did that come from? This is your characteristic relational stance. It's your adaptation from childhood. Where did you learn it? And so, for example, I always use the same example, forgive me, but it's so perfect. I had a client who was a chronic liar on the brink of divorce, lied about everything. I asked him about his childhood growing up. I said, who tried to control you? Show me the thumbprint and I'll tell you about the thumb. Once I see the adaptation, the next question is, what were you adapting to? So if you're a chronic liar, you have a black belt in evasion. Who were you trying to evade? I guess. Who tried to control you? My father. Tell me about it. He was all over him, utterly controlling, military, disciplinary, blah, blah, blah. What did you do? Guess what? I lied. Oh, well, you've been lying ever since. I have a saying, adaptive then, maladaptive now. What was exquisitely intelligent to do as a child is pretty dumb to do in your adult relationships now. You're not that little boy and little girl. You have more resources than that. The person you're speaking to is not your mom or dad. They're different than that. Let's bring you into the present. And that means the second phase of the work, which is deep trauma work. Now, I'm the only one I know, that's not true, Janina Fisher and I, the only two I know, who do deep trauma work in couples therapy, in the presence of the other. And when you do the course with me, you'll see why that's advantageous. If one partner does deep work about where all this comes from, it opens the heart of the person sitting next to them. It creates intimacy. And then the third phase, once we figure out what you're doing that's getting in your way, once we figure out where it comes from and do some deep trauma work with you about that childhood, then we've cleared the way for education and teaching. Okay, this is a better way of doing it. Why don't you invite your wife into the bedroom rather than screaming at her because she's not there? So first phase, loving confrontation. Second phase, deep trauma work in the presence of the other. Third phase, skill building, strength building, and teaching. I think it's the combination of all three of these that produces such profound change so quickly.
Okay, that's a good overview of the RLT ideas. And I also know from seeing you in action in Toronto, there's a kind of excitement in the room because of the way and how you teach. The way you get your ideas across is not by just showing a PowerPoint and saying point 1, point 2, point 3, this is what you've learned, this is what couples are about, this is how you can be a better therapist. You bring it alive in certain ways. What do you think is going to happen in Cancun during your session? How are you going to bring these ideas alive over 5 mornings before we go out to play in the sand?
Yeah. Well, the short version, Michael, is I have absolutely no idea. I believe in emergent design, but the reason why I have no idea is because it's going to be live. Anybody coming with me to Mexico, be prepared to do some work and be prepared to take a look at yourself. Because there'll be a lot, as we teach these things, people will be practicing them some, and I'll be asking for volunteers to do the work in real time on your own issues. Again, volunteering, you don't have to. And point by point, it will come alive because we'll be using them. For example, that adaptation I'm talking about, that's what we call your adaptive child part. IFS is not the only people who do parts work. That's your adaptive child part. And I may well have the folks in Mexico write a letter to their own adaptive child. What are the pros and cons and what do they want to do about it? That's just an example of making it come alive by looking at ourselves and our own individual issues, both as therapists and as human beings.
Okay, well, this is good, Terry, because I know you've taught so many courses, boot camps, and everything. And it's important if people are thinking about the possibility of going to Cancun that they know it's this kind of program and it's very involving and you put yourself out as well. It's not just
yes, I talk about, one of the characteristics of RLT is that we're people with our people. We don't hide behind a mask of professional neutrality. And so it's part of the method that we self-disclose. And as a teacher, I'll also be talking about my own journey and my own work, because I do this work every day on a good day. And on the days I don't do it, I like to say I look just as ugly as the rest of you. But mostly I do. So I'll be talking about my own life and my own journey, as well as everybody else in the room.
Okay, I want to say a few things generally about this Cancun program and the weeks we're going to be there. And then we'll open for questions. First I want to say, Terry, and for everybody else, we had Lisa Ferentz yesterday.
Yeah.
And she said something that resonated so much with me and I think with other people. She said, this last year and a half has been so hard. We've been working so hard. We need some fun. We need to get away. Everyone I know is stressed out, zoomed out, worried a little bit about COVID or more, even though things look like a lot better. But she said, we just need to get away. And I'll say a few things about our 4 weeks in Cancun, and your week will certainly be an important one because you're going to be there with Ron Siegel, who's going to be in another room, your buddy, presenting. And actually, you two are doing a webinar with us. That's a commercial later, I think in December. But the idea was having 2 speakers in 2 different rooms, and then you and Ronald get together on the Wednesday night for both groups to kind of have a chat and what's happening in the world of therapy. Also, we're going to have yoga every morning, and again, another opportunity for people to kind of just relax and unwind. And also, I think connection is what it's all about. So the program ends at 12:30. People can do whatever they want for the rest of the time, but we're going to offer kind of a happy hour meet and mingle every night before dinner. So we'll have a location. If you want to hang out with people, come on down here. It's an all-inclusive, so everything is free after you get there. All your food, all your drinks, everything. So if I say to you, Terry, can I buy you a drink? I'll be lying, but I can get you one at the bar. So it's just another opportunity to just relax if you'd like to be with other people. We also have added every week, Terry, I don't know if you know this, we have a very important person who's going to be there your whole week. She also happens to be from Boston, where you and Ron happen to be. Her name is Lynn Noel. She's a singer. She's a storyteller. She's the president of the England Folk Institute. She also has I think a technology, an IT business. But she's written and presented a lot on women, on voyageurs, on Vikings, on pirates. And she's going to sing and talk for 2 different presentations, but also be there for the happy hours and for meals. So Terry, if you said, Lynn, you're an interesting person, you even live in my neighborhood, let's have lunch together today. Everyone, not just you, Terry, will have the opportunity to get to know Lynn Noel who's a character, a singer, and a very interesting person. So she's there, just to make a better week for everybody, and for her and her husband who's coming down. I think he's a fisherman, so she'll be there. Also, we chose this hotel, the Dreams Resort, when it was called the Now something else, part of a big chain of American-run resorts, who decided to upgrade to make this a higher, like a 4 or 5-star property. It got really good reviews on TripAdvisor, and when I read the reviews and I saw their videos about what they're doing, even videos of people who went there and said, this looks like a great place. So, we think it's going to be a great place. They are, in terms of COVID, they have very high standards. They're offering testing right now for people who need tests to come back to anywhere in the world, and all that will be on their website. So, the idea of this week is, let's get out, let's have some fun, let's learn something, let's get continuing education credits, let's be able to write it off if you can. So, which also what we're offering. So that kind of gives an overview of what we're doing and why we're doing it. You mentioned Janina, your friend Janina and another friend of yours, Frank Anderson, will be there the week before.
Yeah, I heard.
Vanderkolk will be there the week after. So we got like a lot of great people coming. So that's kind of an overview of what you're doing, Terry, about Cancun in general. I'd like to open it up for any questions you might have about anything that Terry's presenting, or anything about what we're doing in Cancun. So, Emily, are there any questions yet? Not yet? Okay.
Not yet, nope.
Okay,
but any questions, raising hands in the chat box, whichever you prefer.
If you have any, now's your chance to ask them. And if not, we'll just talk about some other things. Okay, so Tara, if there are questions, you can raise your hand or put something in the chat line. So I'm wondering, Terry, how your approach to couples therapy might have changed because of COVID and the fact that couples are together all the time. We have other therapists doing webinars and talking to people who say that there have been some interesting outcomes or situations due to the fact that for so long people have been cooped up together. What have you found? And have you found, the second question, what about doing couples therapy online? And what's your experience and other therapists you talk to? Because many therapists, when COVID first started, we would have sessions and they would say, well, COVID will be over soon, and there's no way I'm going to see people online. You got to be in a room with them. Your thoughts on these things?
I'm a little odd in that, my specialty for years has been couples on the brink of divorce that nobody has been able to help. And so my clinical practice, and I have a full practice, has always been people flying in from wherever to on the brink of disaster. And we take 2 days together, and at the end of the 2 days, you're either back on track or getting a divorce. That's the way it works. And so many of them would then leave and want to continue on video. So I've been doing video for 10 years. And I feel pretty comfortable with video. You lose, obviously, the energy in the room, but you can pick up an awful lot of stuff. I don't know about you, but I grew up in front of a TV, and I can read people pretty well on the screen. The one thing there's one practical tip I want to share with everybody that I've learned, which is when you have a couple and they're like squabbling or they're whatever, and they're not listening to you, or you have somebody who's using what we call a wall of words, and they're not really listening to you. What I do on video that I don't do in the room is I go like this. Excuse me. Hold on. And I use the visual to control the conversation in a way that I don't have to live. And I want people to do that. The other thing, of course, that everybody says is it's more tiring to concentrate online. And I think that we should take good care of ourselves and know how much screen time is enough. for us and take a break and maybe even see a few less people if we need to. So that's it on video. I think that people should be empowered to do the work. You know, you look at commercials of Michael Phelps, and in 5 years, it's all going to be video anyway. It's all going to be online anyway. So don't be shy about trusting your own instincts, even though it's on Zoom instead of in person. About COVID, the short version on that is I found it cuts two ways. People get on each other's nerves, obviously, and there's a lot to do. You find people. What I found is the people with kids who are, the kids are not in school or they haven't been in school, really are hit the hardest in terms of family stress at home. Older couples, empty nesters, a lot of people in general and men in particular are home more because of COVID. And one of the unintended consequences is families are enjoying the increased presence of the breadwinner or breadwinners in the family. And I think that no one's really talking about that, but I think it's been an upside. A lot of people are a little bit off the rat race because of what's happened here. And guess what? It's a nicer way to live. A lot of people are not going to return to live work, not therapists, but because they've discovered a more relational way of being in the world. So it's cut both ways.
Yeah. Do you find, I hear a lot of talk about hybrid practices where people are doing both. Is that what you're finding when you talk to this, that they're?
My students are just getting back to live work, some live work, mostly only with vaccinated clients, and still a lot on Zoom. Some of my students are not coming back to live work at all. The freedom. I'm talking to you from our house on Martha's Vineyard, which we've been here from May through now. And I would never have been able to do that. My office is in Arlington. So again, there are pros and cons to virtually any circumstance.
Okay, I noticed we have a question, Emily. There's one question, I'll read it. Would you be able to explain a little more about writing a letter to the adaptive part?
Yes. I'll run through the exercise, but I would caution people to not do it at home on their own with no context for doing it. But on the other hand, I don't know. See how it sits. Here's the letter. First of all, your adaptive child is a kid's version of a grown-up. It's how you adapted in that family growing up, like the liar, or the distancer, or the pursuer, or the caretaker, or whatever it was that you were busy doing. And I always teach my students to be respectful of the exquisite intelligence of the adaptive child. You did just what you needed to do to preserve your integrity and wholeness in the middle of whatever you were facing. But that isn't serving you now. You mentioned Gabor Mate. Gabor, I think, has a phrase that's kind of cute that I think is his version of what I call the adaptive child. He calls it your stupid friend. The friend who's been with you all your life who just doesn't seem to learn, Anyway, adaptive child is different from the wise adult prefrontal cortex, which is much more nuanced and flexible and forgiving and just more a mature version of who you are. Here's the letter. My dear adaptive child, 1, thank you. You saved me. This is what you did for me. 2, these are the gifts that you gave me. You taught me how to protect myself, or you taught me how to be ambitious, or you taught me how to read people in my codependence, or. These are the gifts you gave me. 3, this is what you've cost me. Intimacy, self-esteem, connection to others, being able to sleep at night. About 30 pounds of weight I needn't be carrying, etc. 4, I am here now, the wise adult, and I can take care of both of us. And this is what that's going to look like. That's the letter of the adaptive child.
Okay, wow.
Let me say a word about that.
Sure.
In IFS and a lot of, and I love Dick, he's my dearest, he's a dear, dear friend, but a lot of the trauma work, when they work with these parts, it's a lot of release work, unburdening, getting, what in RLT it's relational. So rather than a release model, our model is reparenting. The therapist brings you, the best part of you, into relationship with the less mature, more troubled parts of you, so that you can surround those parts, hear those parts, love those parts, and ultimately demote them. You don't want them running your relationship. You want the wise adult part of you doing that. You know, when Belinda and I have a fight, I put little Terry behind me. I've got a composite. He's about 8, holds onto my shirt. And I have a deal with him. I say, look, I'll protect you from whatever the blast is that's coming our way. It stops with me, my big body. You're fine back there. But your part of the deal is you let me deal with Belinda. I don't want you to deal with her. You'll make a mess of it. So one of the things I say is when an inner child kicks up, either the very young wounded child or the more adaptive child, older, you want to put your arms around them, hear them, love them, and take their sticky hands off the steering wheel. They're not driving the bus, you are. And this is a practice that we teach over and over and over. It happens dramatically in the office, but it happens over and over and over again in daily life with our clients.
Well, thank you for that. And we're just about out of time. So I do want to say thank you very much, Terry, and everyone for tuning in, because a lot of people register for this and watch the video later. Everyone's going to get a copy of this video. And if they want to go, if you want to go with the adaptive letter, you're welcome to view that again. And I hope those of you thinking about Cancun, come join Terry there. If not, Terry has a great website with lots of materials as well. So Terry, once again, thank you. Emily, thank you for being there in the background, helping out. And I wish everyone a very good day. Thanks a lot.